If you're an antique and classic car buff, then you need to go on a little ride with us to the shop of John Hollingsworth in Hot Springs Village, and let us introduce you to Holly Classics. Oh yeah. So John, how many years worth of collecting are we talking about here?
Oh, probably 25 years. We've been here in the village for about 30 years, and we started collecting about the time we came here. Started restoring a car or two, and we just kind of buy and sell one every once in a while, restore one every once in a while, TLC one every once in a while.
Tell us about this one right here. This is really nice.
Well, that's a 1914 Model T Speedster that has been obviously refurbished, but it's kind of nice to have a brass radiator car in the shop because that represented, they quit making brass radiators in 1915, so just to have the brass radiator is kind of unusual and different.
So I guess if you were a surfer dude back in the 1950s, this is the kind of ride you would have, huh?
Yeah, I believe you'd be a real hit at the beach, maybe in the water or out of the water, but it's a 57 Dodge station wagon that's unusual, to say the least. The colors are great. When I first bought it, I thought it would have a standard motor in it until I raised the hood on it. Found out it had a Hemi with 2 4-barrel carburetors, so they might have got to the beach early, but they better stop at a gas station to get back. Yeah. And interesting enough, in looking at the brochure of the car, that was an option. You could get that. I didn't believe it, but it is an option in that car.
Now this Packard here, my gosh, this is quite the automobile.
It is quite an automobile, Chuck. That's a 1950 Packard. If you look at that hood ornament, you'd have to almost put a cover on it to keep from it impaling somebody. It was an interesting story. I bought this at a Denver auction, and a little old lady from Colorado Springs actually drove that to the sale, put it in the sale, and sold it. I don't know how she got home, but it's very, very close to an original car. And those were the days when the cars just floated down the highway, you know.
And what about this Coca-Cola truck here? That's pretty
well,
awesome.
It is a novelty issue. Actually, it's a 1928 Model A Ford that pickup. It's unusual because it's a roadster pickup, soft top. But one of our guys that hang out down here, John Paul, he wanted a Coca-Cola truck, so we bought the truck, and Leland and some of the Shelby made the back for it for like the old Coca-Cola rack, and so now we can go sell Coca-Cola any place we want to now.
Now your family has quite the Indy history. This is the kind that you drove in the 60s?
Yeah, this is called a midget racer, which is, they did most of those on quarter-mile and half-mile tracks, and then they went to the sprint cars, which were half-mile and mile tracks. And then, of course, the Indy car was 1.5 miles and 2.5 miles at the Speedway. That's the car my son drove. He was the fastest rookie qualifier over there in 99. Qualified 212, I think, miles an hour. So if you get in it after a while, I'm not going to let you go that fast. I'll tell you that for sure. This dirt car, championship dirt car here was like we ran some.
Yeah.
And those ran mostly on mile dirt tracks.
So tell us a little bit about your memory board here and Cabbage Heads.
Okay, well, that's most of the guys that have hung out down here. I told you this is kind of like an adult daycare center here. And all those guys, some of them are gone. Matter of fact, unfortunately, about half of them are gone already. But the word Cabbage Heads was a classified term for a long time. We'd have to shoot you if we told you what it was, but I'll tell you anyway.
Okay.
Some guys were working on the cars back in the shop one day and laying around, and tools were all on the floor, and somebody couldn't find a wrench, and it was a kind of a bad scene. And one of the wives happened to be there, and she said, you guys are just a bunch of cabbage heads. So that, not very sophisticated story, but that's how it all started. So the name stuck after that.